Okay, here's my short little amateur video on how I make my water kefir. After it's made, I like to put it in a container like that with a flip top. When I put it in the fridge, it's just easier to pour. Obviously, I didn't do that this time because it's almost gone. You can see a few little bubbles in there. It's not super fizzy, but you can taste the fizz. Here's the bottle it just came out of. You can see that there is kind of some white milky stuff down in there. That means that something's growing, and that's good. And here are my kefir grains. They're soaking in their sugar water. It's actually been longer than 3 days. It's probably been a week. Look, you can see that little grain moving up. They do that every once in a while. They just kind of pop up on their own. Kind of interesting. They pop up and then they pop back down. I'm going to, one thing that's important, these are Fido jars. I like to use them in all my fermenting because they're really high quality. They're expensive. This is about $13 for this jar. I get them on Amazon. And there's copycats. At places like IKEA and Target, but you want to get the Fido jars because they won't explode on you. There's not much chance of explosion, but they're really strong glass, and they've got this rubber seal. Ooh, that had a little bit of pop to it. They have this rubber seal that allows some air to escape, but doesn't allow new air to get in. So that's why I like to use these. So I'm going to pour, and I don't know if I can. Brianne, can you help me make this video?
Yeah, what video are you trying to
I'm going to pour this. I'm going to have my daughter hold this so I can do two things at once. Just kind of focus on that. I want to separate my grains. So I've got a little strainer cup in there, and I usually do this down in the sink because it can be kind of messy. Sometimes I just put it in a colander, but this is nice because it goes directly into the cup. And I'm going to separate these grains, and I'll put them back in here when I've added my sugar and water. Okay, look at those grains in there. You can see it's just kind of a clear jelly looking thing, but they're actually live bacteria in the sugar. Okay, this, see the fuzz in there? That is ready to add juice to. And you can add fresh fruit, you can add all kinds of things. I usually like to add grape juice or pomegranate juice or a mixture of the two. I don't measure anymore. I just kind of, I would say probably 2 spoons, but there are measurements out there. I'll have to get them and write them down for you. But I just add a couple of big spoons of frozen concentrate grape juice, maybe 3 or 4. It's going to eat the sugar. The sugar will be eaten by the bacteria that's left in here. Now I'm just going to shut it and let it sit for about 3 days on my countertop. And then this, I'm going to just leave this out for a second. I'm going to add some filtered water. I think it's important to add filtered water because chlorine will kill your water kefir grains. So I add my Brita filtered water, and then I add a ½ cup of cane juice sugar. This brand that I have, for some reason, and I don't know what brand it is, but for some reason it is making my water cloudy. And it isn't usually cloudy. Usually it's kind of a brownish caramel clear color, but this one makes it cloudy and white looking. So to that much water, I add ½ cup of this sugar. And I don't heat up the water or anything. There's specific instructions for starting your grains out where you have to have a little bit of heated water and you have to do a couple of batches where it's not going to work, just to get your grains rehydrated. So I want to mix that up and make sure it's all mixed before I put my grains back in. And I like to add some trace minerals to it. It just helps the grains grow a little bit. So I just kind of add a couple of squirts. I don't measure. And then once my sugar is all dissolved, I'm just going to add these grains back into the water, and they're going to eat that sugar. And I'm going to sit this on the counter and let it sit for about 3 days to a week. Oh. I have something in there that I need to get out. Okay. I let this sit about 3 days to a week because that'll actually be ready. This one with the juice in it will be ready before this one is. You can tell when it's ready to add your juice because it won't be sweet anymore. You won't taste that sugar in there. Same with this. When you test it to make sure that it's ready, it won't have that sweet flavor from the juice. That's why it's not really that important to measure. You can have too little, but you can't really have too much. It might just take a little bit longer, but it will do its thing. And it's really easier than it looks. It's easier than people make it out to be. And every couple of days I might open this up and burp it. Might let some water out, some air out, so that it doesn't get too, expand in there. Anyway, that's how I do my water kefir.